We ready? Okay. Yeah, we're starting, Kathleen. Ready? Welcome. It is 6:31 on April 23rd. Welcome to our governing board meeting. It's nice to see a full house, and all those out in TV land can see your wonderful backs of your head. All right, call to order. Mrs. Hahn? Present.
Present. Scott Bartle. Present. Leslie Carlisle Burnett.
Here.
Anna Marie Moore.
All right. We do have our Pledge of Allegiance. It's going to be led by our Rotary Students of the Month. If everybody will please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for doing that. Our Rotary Club has their Students of the Month here, and I really appreciate their service. All right, we are moving on to adoption of the agenda. I have one pullout from consent, which is item B, our governing board minutes. Since Leslie wasn't here, I want her to be able to vote on consent, so if we can pull that out. It is 6B. Let's put that into 7. Any other changes? Okay, do we have any Sorry. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, that brings us to our call to the public. I don't see any speaker cards. Dr. Chestnut, do you have any? Nobody's hiding any? Is there anybody that wants to come up and take their 3 minutes? No? All right. Moving on. Dr. Chestnut, Superintendent's report.
Rotary Students of the Month. I know Alma Farrell is here and other Rotarians to make some presentations. So Alma, I'll turn it over to you.
Again, Dr. Chestnut, members of the board, thank you for allowing Rotary to honor and recognize our Students of the Month here. It's a great pleasure for us to be able to do this and for the community to know what an outstanding job your students are doing here at the district. This is the last month that we will honor a Student of the Month until next October. But next month and next week, a real exciting thing begins. We're going to be passing out applications for a scholarship through Rotary. And in the past, students have ranged receiving scholarships from Rotary in the amount of $500 to $10,000. And it's contingent on how much money Rotary raises. So this gives me an opportunity to tell you about our only fundraiser that we have this year. We have a COPA town team. We have 20 of outstanding citizens in your community who will represent you and kind of make fools of themselves. And I have to tell you that nobody from the school district would agree to play on that team, so I guess they didn't want to be a fool. But anyway, it's a lot of fun. It's good family fun. It's very entertaining. So we're going to be passing out flyers, and we have some tickets if you're interested, or you can get them at the door.
That they're playing the Harlem.
We are playing the Harlem Ambassadors. If you came to the game last year, you know what fun it was. So it'll be as much fun or more fun this year. Okay? In the scholarship application that we have, the important thing about that is we ask students to write about the four-way test. We as Rotarians live and try to work as in the four-way test. The four-way test is of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? So you students who are here tonight, you're going to get a pen and a card that gives you that, and that's what the essay you're going to have to write on, and that's what you'll be judged on. So you should be getting that within the next week or so, okay?
That's probably too much, Christian.
All of the past Rotary Students of the Month are eligible for this scholarship, and we are proud to say that Maricopa High School is starting a Rotary Interact Club. We have our new president. He's going to be one of our honorees, and I'll introduce him a little later. But we're real excited to have a high school Interact Club. In our district, which is District 5500, carries a large part, it includes Phoenix through Tucson, and part of Yuma. So we're a big, we're a big group of Rotarians. And this is going to be the second Interact Club in that district. So we're really proud that Maricopa High School is going to have a high school Interact Club. Okay, I would also, before I introduce the students, take this opportunity to thank the administrators, the teachers, and the parents of the students who are going to receive this recognition, because without your help, your assistance, your guidance would not be possible for these students to receive this recognition. So I will start. I will start with the middle school students first. First student I would like to recognize and ask to come up is Sarah Brock. Sarah, would you please come forward? Sarah is an 8th grade student at Desert Winds Middle School. She's reported to be very quiet and well behaved, and always strives to do her very best with her assignments. Being in honors English and math, she works hard to be a good friend as well as a student. She's able to balance her academics and her music, as is often seen working on assignments in the cafeteria and the library, helping friends and practicing her instrument. As far as music is concerned, she's also a dancer. She does ballet, and she has just started Point, right? Okay. She's also a member of the cross-country team, and her coach, Coach Shorey, says she's a quiet runner and a hard worker without complaints and a great team player. Rotary is also told that she's consistent with what she does, and she's very driven getting things done every day in a quiet manner. And she's regaled by all her teachers as being diligent, hardworking, and loved by friends, classmates, and teachers. And we Rotarians would like to congratulate her for being such an outstanding student, and your parents, Stephen and Candace Brock, for having an outstanding daughter. Our next middle school student that we're honoring is Diana Molinero. She's an 8th grade student at Maricopa Wells Middle School. Mr. Abel reports that she's also a quiet student at Maricopa Wells Middle School, and it's reported to Rotary that Diana has a 3.78 GPA and is enrolled in an honors algebra class. She's also the Maricopa Wells Middle School National Junior Honor Society president, as well as a member of the Student Council. She plays on the Maricopa Wells Middle School undefeated Panther soccer team. And she's participating in the Relay for Life as a member of the Panther Pride team. Besides being involved in school activities, she also finds time to volunteer and assist with community activities, such as the local food bank and volunteer service that she gave on Martin Luther King Day. Mr. Abel says Maricopa Wells is proud of her with her academic and athletic success and willingness to serve her school and community, demonstrating many of the assets that are stressed at Maricopa Wells. Rotary would like to congratulate Diana for being such an outstanding student, and her mother, Rose Carrillo Alberto. The next student we have to honor is a Maricopa High School student and also a Cabot student. Mr. Alcott, will you please come forward? As I told you all last month, it's really nice living in this community as long as I have and seeing students graduate when you saw them when they were very young students at the elementary school. Alan is one of these students that I've known for a very long time, and I'm really proud to have him be here. He's enrolled in the Cabot Fire Science 2 and EMT program, where he's a student recruiter and will have earned 24 fire science dual enrollment credits at CAC upon graduation. He's also in the Maricopa High School welding program and an ROTC student, where he is the staff sergeant. He's a community volunteer firefighter with Thunderbird Fire District and previously was a Fire Explorers program participant with the Ak-Chin Fire Department. His career goal is to be a certified firefighter and work in Colorado. Alan has an excellent work ethic and a passion for the fire science field. He has the drive and ambition to realize his career plans after Cabot and Maricopa High School. His parents, Michelle Alcott, and dad, Alan Cott Sr., and stepmother, Candace Alcott. You're to be congratulated to have an outstanding son. Thank you. Our last student that we're going to recognize is Christian Palafox. You could come forward. Christian is a senior at Maricopa High School. The administration reports that he is an exceptional student leader at Maricopa High School, and it is reported to Rotary that Christian has taken many advanced placement classes and even received the highest score of 5 in the Spanish assessment. His many Maricopa High School activities include being the 2013 Most Valuable Player of the Varsity Rams football team this year, a DECA Vice President of Public Relations, member of Keep the Peace Club, a volunteer with Melonhead Foundation, and most recently, he's the president of the Rotary Interact Club. Besides his high school activity, he's also an Eagle Scout and has served as an offensive line coach and tutor at Desert Winds Middle School. Rotary's told that he's kind, empathetic, hardworking, and a very responsible young man. We are all proud of all his accomplishments. Most recently, Christian received the Dean Scholar Award and an athletic scholarship attending Arizona Christian University in the fall of 2014. Christian is also, a week from this Friday, headed to Atlanta, Georgia, where he will be competing nationally with DECA. We would like to congratulate you and your parents, Christian, Carla and Mark Yance, for being such an outstanding student. Thank you.
Put it down, hope there's not feedback. No, no feedback. Oh, good. Oh, sorry, Alma, didn't remember it.
Well, congratulations to our Rotary Students of the Month. It's always inspiring to hear the great things that they're doing. Moving on. We have two special presentations later tonight from Butterfield Elementary and Maricopa Elementary School. So we have Team Butterfield and Team Maricopa Elementary here in the audience. So we want to recognize 2 staff members from each school, which is our tradition. And we have 4 people that we'd like to recognize. Actually, there's a 5th one. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about these 5 people, and then you can come up and I'll hand you a certificate. First of all, the classified staff member of the month from Butterfield Elementary School is Lynette. Whoa, I got the wrong names up there, don't I? Okay, I got the right pictures. I just don't have the right names up there, so sorry about that. On the right is Lynette Bingham, who is library aide at Butterfield Elementary. She's a dedicated employee who is a team player. She works hard. She's self-directed and loved by students and staff. So congratulations to Lynette Bingham. Sorry about the name problem there. On the left side of the screen, the teacher of the month from Butterfield Elementary is Cynthia Chance. She's a 6th grade teacher there. She is recognized as a positive team leader of the 6th grade, and she's helped the 6th grade with their integration project this year where they're specializing in different subjects, and has helped lead that 6th grade team to a very successful year. So congratulations to Cynthia. Oh, I see. I guess I do have that name right, don't I? Okay. Just to add to the confusion. Next, the staff members of the month from Maricopa Elementary School. On the right is Terry Brown, a nurse at MES, the nurse, I should say. She goes above and beyond in her job. She cares about students' health and comfort. She is an important team member with the self-contained classrooms, the exceptional student service classrooms there at Maricopa Elementary, and she helps with teachers in their positioning of students, changing clothes of students, and then contacting parents and other tasks that go with that classroom in particular. She takes a personal interest in all the families and students at Maricopa Elementary School, and students and staff love her smile and commitment to excellence. So congratulations, Terry Brown. And pictured on the left is Nancy Gugesberg, who teaches 1st grade at MES. And Nancy is well known for constantly reflecting on her professional practice and looking for ways to improve her teaching. She works in the after-school program, which is known as Club Slither at Maricopa Elementary School. She takes a personal interest in families and students, just like Mrs. Brown, and she goes out of her way to help others and to make Maricopa Elementary School a better place. So congratulations. And then finally, I don't have a picture of Dr. Jen Robinson, but we want to recognize her tonight because she completed her National Board Certification Teacher recertification process, and that's a big deal to be nationally board certified. So if all 5 of you could please come up here, I'd like to present this certificate to you. A couple other items. This last week we sent out 14,000 direct mailers, and it was a postcard that looked like this, and hopefully you got one at your house. On one side it advertised our free full-day kindergarten, which will be available at all 6 elementary schools next year, and to announce that we are now enrolling. And on the back side it had a list of all 9 schools with their new academic focus for next school year. And just reminders that we are taking applications, and we think we got 10 or 12 or 15 calls since this flyer went home. So we're happy about that, and trying to get the good word out there about next school year. I left those for board members too, and if you don't want that, I'll take it back. But if you want to take it home, you're welcome to. Good. You should have gotten one in the mail. On the 21st, on Monday, there was a story about Maricopa Unified School District on KJZZ, the public radio station. Very, very nice story, just talking about the good work being done at Maricopa Wells Middle School in the English classes there, and then just talking also about charter funding and the changes that the state has made to charter funding beginning next year. So it was still a good, positive story, and you can actually go on the website for KJZZ, and you can find it, and you can either read the story, or you can click on it and hear it just like it was on the radio. On the 22nd, which was yesterday, we had our monthly meeting with City Manager Gregory Rose and a couple other staff members from City of Maricopa, and that's a good thing for us to do. Mr. Beckett, Mr. Roush, and I met with them, and there's always several projects to work on, and our main topic was the new intergovernmental agreement that we're working on, and so that's kind of in process, and we'll be bringing you more information about that. Next Wednesday, we'll have the Override Recommendation Committee meeting, which will meet here. Actually, we're going to meet in room 116 right next door, but that committee is making a recommendation to me concerning the override, and then I will bring you that information at a future board meeting, and we'll discuss this topic in depth at a future governing board meeting. I want to remind you that tomorrow is the MUSD Art Walk, which is a great annual tradition, and if you walked around a little bit here prior to the meeting, you got a little preview because it's pretty much all set up thanks to Michelle Garcia, my secretary, who's done a super job of coordinating that. Krista Roden, Diane Vigil, several people in our office have really worked hard to make this happen. A good team effort. Teachers, of course, working with our students to provide the artwork, and we have some really impressive stuff on display. So we'll also have performing arts with music presentations. I believe they'll be out in the courtyard area, and so we want to invite everybody to attend from 4 to 6, so it's going to be a big deal. All the works were judged already today. We had a panel of judges come in, so the ribbons are already on the pieces of art that receive special recognition, so it's kind of fun just to walk around and see what that's all about. I wanted to remind you that the Maricopa Education Foundation will be sponsoring the 4th Annual Teacher Appreciation Night on May 3rd at 6 p.m. at the Duke, and that's a very nice event. I went to my first one last year. I know that tickets are still available, so if you're interested, you can contact Mr. Beckett, I know, is one person that has tickets, so that's going to be a good night. Also, please put on your calendars, governing board members, if you can attend. We will be having our Best of the Best recognition event on Friday, May 23rd at 8 a.m. in the PAC. And we will recognize teachers, classified staff, administrators, coaches, volunteers, substitute teachers, I believe. It's a long list of recognition that we will give out. Retirees will be recognized at that time. And to be recognized, you have to be nominated. And so Michelle Garcia is collecting nominations right now, and it's all based on that abbreviation of MUSD there, staff members that are making a difference in student achievement, uncompromising excellence, service, and dedication. So it's a nice honor just to be nominated, and if you are nominated, if you nominate somebody, that form actually goes to them when they get their certificate. So it's kind of, it's a cool thing because people that are nominated get to find out who are saying, you know, and the nice things that people are saying about them, and it's kind of a cool thing, even if you're not like the winner in that category. So it's going to be a good way to close out the school year. So please attend if you can. And that's all I have.
Just making sure I put it on my calendar right now or I'll forget. Governing board member reports. Governing board members, anybody have anything to report this week? Any place you went? No? Mr. Bartle? Nothing? I do want to remind everybody that we do have governing board member elections coming up. We do have 3 seats available. You can get those applications at the Pinal County School Superintendent's Office. They are available now. You can also find out what board members do by going to azsba.org and click on the board member packet, and you can figure out, it kind of tells you what we really do, besides have a good time up here. So check it out. We do want to make sure that we get some good candidates and keep the school district moving forward to be an A district. So check that out, please. Brings us to work study. Dr. Chestnut.
We have 2 reports tonight, and the first is from Butterfield Elementary, and I would like to introduce Principal Janelle Hildick.
Good evening, President Anderson, governing members of the board, Dr. Chestnut. I would also like to introduce our staff members that we have here tonight to present our progress in math this year. So I will start with our first teacher, second grade teacher, Inez Ramirez, Becky Roush, our academic coach, Kristen McMullen, 5th grade teacher, and John McGuire, 6th grade teacher. So, and we have our staff in the back of the room here to represent. So, I'd like to start with just giving an overview, really brief, with what our presentation is tonight. We are a community dedicated to inspiring lifelong learners with positive character traits. That is our mission. We will be talking about who we are, along with our SMART goal for the year in math. Then we will be sharing some information on our test scores from the pre-test and the past 3 benchmark scores. And currently we are working on that post-test just like the rest of the school district. So we're excited to see those scores finally. And then we will share some of those things that we've been doing to work on our progress with math. So those interventions we've been doing all year long. And then finally, the challenges that we face implementing those interventions. So I will start with our first presenter, and that is who we are.
So at Butterfield, currently we have about 60% who are free or reduced lunch. We have 15 students who, I think it's bi-weekly, go down to the school nurse and get a backpack full of food so that they can eat over the weekend. We have 6 homeless students, or at least 6 students who've been identified homeless. And then our demographics, you can see right there that we're a pretty diversified school based on our demographics. And then we have 747 students currently, which is up about 92 students from the 11th day of school. So pretty big place.
Thanks, Kristen. Our SMART goal.
I was told I was given 3 minutes to fill up this, so I have notes. Before I get into SMART goal, we have a lot of educators and administrators. Most of us know SMART goals, what that is. But for those who may not be familiar, a SMART goal is something that we establish that helps us to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely with anything that we set forth for the students to achieve. So for us at Butterfield, we determined last year, right? We set these last year? Beginning for this year, we set it during the summer, I think. All 1st through 6th grade students that fall below the standard, being our math standards, will move 1 proficiency level, and students meeting or exceeding the standard will maintain or improve proficiency level scores as evidenced by comparing the Galileo math pretest to the Galileo math post-test, which we are almost finished with.
Our next slide is our Galileo test scores, and the numbers across the top you will see are the percentages of students who meet or exceed the goal for that particular benchmark period, and then across the bottom are our grade levels. So if you look at the Kelly Green column first, that's our pre-test that we took in the fall. The gold color is our benchmark 1, tan is our benchmark 2, and then the lime green is our benchmark 3. And as Janelle said earlier, we're right now in the process of taking our post-test, which we are really anxiously awaiting our results. They can't come through fast enough, and teachers are running into my office, do we have our results yet? Do we have our results? Because they're so excited and so anxious to see the progress that their kids have made. We use our pre-test and our post-test to kind of measure that longitudinal data and how our kids have done over time, whereas the benchmark results we use more just as a period of time, because those are all separate standards and they're measuring different standards, so we don't really compare those as much. So anyway.
Where's the thing? No, the button. Oh, good, thanks. Okay, after we took the first benchmark test, we looked at the results and we decided that we needed to make some changes. So we came up with a couple of interventions. Obviously, one is Club Buzz that we use. That's our after-school tutoring, where the kids are in groups of 15 and less, where they have, it's pretty intense, help with their homework or whatever other issues that they're having. We also introduced IXL math tutoring on the Chromebooks. We also introduced MobiMax Math, which takes the kids, it gives them tutoring on their levels. So even if a kid's in 5th grade and they're still missing some of the basics from 2nd grade, they'll be able to take lessons on the 2nd grade math. So that's pretty effective for some of the kids. We also have a paraprofessional that's in there helping the students do that in grades 2nd through 6th. We got, I think it was in September, we got an Auction grant reading paraprofessional, and she works with K2 on their reading, but we've also been able to use her in 6th grade to help out with some of the struggling math students. At the beginning of the year, we did Walk to Read for 30 minutes 4 times a week. And after we saw our math scores, we thought, oh, maybe we should change this to Walk to Math. So we took that 30 minutes a day, and then we changed it to math intervention 4 times a week. We also do daily small group math instruction within our classroom. Everybody does math fact fluency daily at some point. Mountain math we do in the morning as bell work or something just as warm-up, so the kids are getting that spiral math all the time. And then we're constantly creating Galileo quizzes based on the standards. So that's what we do to raise our scores, I suppose.
Good evening. And obviously we all have challenges, and one of the biggest challenges here at Butterfield is the mobility of the students. We have so many students that come and go by weeks, and sometimes we're running, 32 are in my class, and I lose some, and the next following week I get 4 more. So the mobility is definitely a challenge. The lack of weekly common planning time has been a challenge this year, just for us to be able to cross-curricular plan. We don't have that, and of course, like every other building, the large class sizes has been a big challenge this year.
And just to piggyback on the challenges, the common planning time just has been a challenge because we've tried finding different solutions by creating some more time in the morning, but we're an island school, so we have crosswalks, so we have quite a few duties in the morning for the teachers, so no matter what we did, we couldn't, quite get a time that they were all off in the morning. So that was a little bit of a challenge, and plus we have, most grade levels, we have 4 teachers per grade level, so finding, a common planning time throughout the week is a little challenging when we only have music twice a week and PE once a week. So it's a little challenge, it was backwards. PE twice a week and music once a week and library once a week. So it's a little challenging with the big schedule having the 25 teachers. So that's just some of the challenges of being at a larger school and trying to get that common planning time for teachers to discuss learning and progress with the scores. Did you have any questions before we are finished with any of the test scores, interventions, or? Yeah, we're very proud. The scores are increasing. We've been pretty high on all those benchmark scores. 6th grade has been a little bit of a challenge for us with their scores, but we've seen those levels those levels are increasing. So for example, from that second benchmark to the third benchmark, even though we're not comparing apples to apples, we did move 50% of our falls far below students to approaching. So we were very proud of that.
Now, the benchmark 3, that's the new information, correct? Isn't that what it's?
That's the last one there.
And it's new information, so that's why you.
Oh, yes, yep,
1,
exactly.
2, 3 benchmarks is because it's brand new information.
That's
so you
right.
know where to go.
Yep, exactly. All right, well, thank you. Thanks for having us.
It's nice to have all your staff here. Thank you, Butterfield.
Ready?
MES? All right, Maricopa Elementary, come on up. Use the handheld mic, please.
Good evening, Dr. Chestnut, President Anderson, and board members. Thank you for the opportunity to share our 2013-2014 math goals and progress. When asked to present, I wanted to make sure that teachers' voices were at the forefront of the presentation. We know the biggest impact on student learning is the teachers in the classroom. Each teacher presenting will introduce themselves, what they teach, and how long they've been teaching. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Wright. I'm a special ed teacher, and I've been with the district 11 years. I'm going to talk about challenges. One of our challenges was with Beyond Textbooks was difficult to use its full potential due to limited planning time, as all of us have. To overcome this, BT is an awesome resource for both the general education and special education teachers. The spirals are very beneficial and they help reteach. BT provides structured framework to ensure standards mastery and invites teachers to think outside the box and be more creative. Another challenge we have is parental involvement. We realize there's still a lot of work to be done to get all the parents involved with their child's education. However, we have invited parents to data night, and it was a great way to involve parents. We found they're receptive to the learning and what their children are doing and how they're doing. The student assistant teams invites parents, teachers, and administrators together to discuss individual students' academic and or behavioral concerns. The SAT team meetings have seen more parental involvement this year. Student mobility. Since the beginning of the 13-14 school year, we've had 339 new students enroll at MES and 146 leave. This in and out of student leaves gaps in their education. Children with IEPs and homeschool students are often at a loss, especially during state and federal mandated testing. We've overcome this by student engagement. More teachers implementing whole brain teaching and engaging students with games for learning. Special education. MES is home to 6 self-contained classrooms. General education teachers use the special education teachers for resources that we can bounce ideas off of each other. There is a lot of teacher support at MES, and a large population of ESS students provides an opportunity for our school to teach diversity and acceptance. It also provides the ESS teachers the opportunity to collaborate and positively impact school culture. We know when we achieve greatness, it's all because we've been working together.
My name is Lorena Kelly. I teach 3rd grade. I've been in the district for 10 years, and this is my 24th year teaching. Welcome, MES and other parents and audience. We use the framework for Galileo and to help drive our instruction in the classroom. We use the data to pull small groups. We target those instructional gaps that the students have using our data and BT framework. I'm also right now the 21st Century After School Coordinator, and our after school program is called Club Slither. We have had over 17 certified teachers help throughout the year in the program. We've also serviced 180 students. Within the program, we extend our regular day curriculum. We do reteaching of Common Core objectives, projects, games, small group challenges. We have technology, art, physical fitness, and dance offered to the students. We're currently right now enrolling students into our after-school program. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Yvonne Maestas. I'm a nationally certified teacher in early childhood. I'm currently the full-day kindergarten teacher at MES. I've been at Maricopa Elementary for 1 year. I've got 14 years teaching experience. We have had a family data night at least once every quarter. We found that parent participation was better when we were able to invite the entire family and provide some type of an incentive for coming in and participating. Our PTO has worked hand in hand with our staff in coming up with ideas that would help get more family participation. For example, they have provided dinner and snacks to families that show up, prizes during our fall festival, and classroom awards. Our third quarter family data night was split up between age groups to help families that have students of multiple grade levels to ensure that parents can attend for each of their students and not miss out on any of the valuable information that teachers were providing for them. We found that parents really found the information that we provided them during our data night valuable, and parents really took to heart the things that we told them we needed help from home on. Next year, we're hoping to pass that type of information on to our parents earlier in the year so that way we can get a little bit stronger support at the beginning and carry us through till the end of the year. Now, teachers attended a variety of professional development, including the Kagan and math solution strategies, Marzano's classroom instruction that works book study, and equality questioning strategies. Each of these trainings and books, students had a multitude of ways in which teachers could incorporate collaborative learning in their classrooms, and they've all proven to be very valuable trainings to us. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Taryn Cummings. I teach 5th grade, and this is my 2nd year at MES and overall teaching. I am going to be talking about Galileo and Beyond Textbooks formative data results. All of our grade levels give weekly formative assessments in math and reading to test the skills covered that previous week. Each teachers analyze their data to identify students' strengths and weaknesses. During our collaboration meetings, we discussed new ways to reteach the lessons, things that worked well, and ability grouping for our students for the following week of intervention. We split our classes up into groups based on how they did on the formative test that Friday. All grade levels are a little bit different in the way they break their groups up. Most teachers do it, students who score a 5 out of 5 or a 4 out of 5 into groups for enrichment with one teacher. Students who score a 3 out of 5 go to reteach with another teacher, and then students who get 2s and 1s are in the intensive group that work on basic math skills. Our teachers use formative data to create strategy groups in our classrooms. Teachers use these groups to assist students in a small group setting during independent math practice.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Hammond. I'm a 2nd grade teacher at MES. This is my 2nd year teaching at MES and overall. Teachers analyze Galileo benchmark data by creating quizzes based off the Galileo standards. These allows students to be really familiar with the type of questions that they're going to see on their Galileo tests. It helps them understand the vocabulary and the wording because sometimes it can be kind of tricky for them. We utilize our extra support staff as well to lead small group instruction with some of those difficult standards that students are really struggling with. After we finish all of our testing, we really like to take time and honor those students who are really having a successful quarter. We do this by hosting an academic and character assembly where we recognize students who have had that outstanding quarter. Some of the awards that we give out a Principal's Award, which is students who receive all A's, Honors Roll, which is students who've received all A's and B's, Perfect Attendance, Most Improved, and we give out character awards at each assembly. Teachers send home personal invitations to the parents to try to get them in and get them participating and get excited about their children being recognized at the assemblies. Parents enjoy coming to the assemblies and recognizing their students. You always see them taking pictures and being really excited. Teachers also, on the backs of all our awards, we write personal messages for the students, so that way in years down the road they can look back and remember why they were recognized and kind of remember that moment and get a good feeling.
I'm Jackie Hahn. I teach 6th grade math, and this is my first year teaching. I'm pleased to present our math results. Let me remind you of our goal is that all MES students will meet or achieve on math standards. Although our benchmark scores are not cumulative, you can see that we have achieved developmental growth across each grade level. The dip in the upper elementary levels is consistent with what we've seen across other schools and in years past. What you don't see in this result is how we've been able to move the falls far below category. In particular, in 6th grade, we dropped that in half, starting the year at 25%, and now we're just over 13%. We're able to do that through the variety of unique intervention models that we've used. They are specific to the classrooms, to the grade level, and to the students that we are trying to reach and to move.
Jerry Swice. I teach at MES, and I've been doing so for 4 years now. I had the same thing to say about our data in 5th grade as well. We did start out with roughly 20% falls far below on the pretest, and on the 4th benchmark we were able to decrease that to just a little over 13%. And we're also excited for our post-test this week and next week because we've been working pretty hard with the kids. We've been reviewing our data, having plenty of math talks and conversations, and they've all been working pretty hard towards eliminating any misconceptions they have. With that said, as far as the data goes, with our switch to the career and college ready standards this year, and the level of rigor that the kids have been taking this year, more so than in years past, as well as our switch to Leader in Me next year and the implementation of that program, all of us at MES envision plenty of successful gains in the future moving forward. So, thank you.
Do you have any questions for us?
I have a question, but I think it's more for Dr. Chestnut. Consistently seeing all the different schools do their math presentations, I consistently see that the 6th grade is always below or barely it meets, but the 5th grade is always extremely high. Now, these are the same 6th graders who were in this school for 5th grade. And I don't need an answer tonight, but can we look into why? Is it just they're going through hormone change? Or is it new information? I mean, you know, it's kind of the middle school slump kind of thing. Or is it because it's new information? Or is there something that we need to change? Okay.
On that, sure.
Okay. Because I've seen it consistently. It's not just MES, it's consistently with, and that was one reasons we kept them in 6th grade was to give them a stronger foundation before they go to middle school. So can we look into that? That's my only. Awesome. Again, thank you for all the teachers being here. It's fantastic to see everybody here. Way too much energy in this group. All right, that brings us to Mrs. Roden and Mrs. Vitral, K-12 Center Mentoring Grant. Dr. Chestnut, did you want to introduce them or say anything?
Ready to go? Heidi Rattle, we'll put you on first.
We had it turned on yesterday and it was working. I don't know. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, the room emptied out quickly. This is exciting. We wrote for a grant with the Arizona K-12 Center, and Northern Arizona University backs them for a $255,000 grant over 3 years to implement an improved mentoring program for the district, and we were awarded that grant. So it's pretty exciting. So what it does for us, over 3 years we get $255,000. The first year is $100,000. Each year it goes down a little bit. We are able to hire 3 half-time dedicated Arizona master teacher mentors to work directly with 21 beginning teachers. And those beginning teachers are 0 to 2 years of experience, and we've chosen to focus those mentors for the next year at least at our secondary level because we don't have coaches at those schools. So it will also provide stipends for those teachers working within the grant, those mentor teachers. We also will get high quality mentor training. We get 8 days of training through the New Teacher Center, which is a big research hub for new teacher development in California. We also have an opportunity to provide our beginning teachers with training from the Arizona K-12 Center through the grant as well. And it supports our teachers going through the national board process and the master teacher process. Right now in the district we have 5 national board certified teachers. We have 4 teachers in the process of a master teacher program, and we have 9 Arizona master teachers. Stephanie Reinhart is our newest master teacher who was achieved last week or the week before, so we're pretty excited about that. Any questions so far?
Yes, on the 3.5s.
Mm-hmm.
Does that is that for all 3 years, or how does the financial resources decline? How does that affect the people side of things?
And that's in my next slide, but essentially the district will have to pick up the difference between the funding of those 3 mentor teachers. And Krista and I have worked out within our title funding that we'll be able to pick up that additional cost to the district. After the 3 years, we are eligible to reapply for the grant again, so then we could start the whole process again. Anne Marie, did you have a question too? Okay. Okay. Wow, that's really tiny up there. The MUSD supports for the grant funding, and what our expectation is for this is increased dedication to beginning teacher mentoring. We have had a mentoring program in the past, but this is really ramping up those efforts and giving us the training necessary to really meet the needs of those beginning teachers. The program director the district has to provide, which will be built into my responsibilities for next school year and the remainder of the grant. Year 2 and 3 portions of those salaries for that 3rd mentor teacher will become district responsibility, but again, we believe that we can build that into our title funding at that time. The district may have to support some additional professional development, which we do anyways for our teacher mentors and our teacher leaders. The travel expenses, that mileage, those kinds of costs would be a district responsibility to get to those 8 days of training. And any additional mentoring stipends as necessary. We do have a couple of elementary schools with high populations of beginning teachers, so we don't want to leave them out totally. We want to help provide some mentoring for those teachers as well, so figuring out what the district can cover in those costs. And then just to continue our district support for the National Board and Master Teacher programs.
The stipends are for the mentors or the mentees?
The mentors.
Three half-time FTEs, will those be new hires, or will they be people within our district that we recategorize?
That's a really great question. To qualify to become a mentor, you have to be an Arizona master teacher. So we only have 9 people that are eligible for those positions. So we have advertised it to those 9 people. We will interview from whoever applies for that position and hopefully, I'm sure, be able to fill those 3 positions 3 times over, but.
So then they're half-time positions, so will those people then do a different job half-day, or how does that work? Because that seems...
That's the complication is if it's an elementary teacher finding someone to fill their other half contract, so they would team teach with someone, or a middle school or a high school teacher would only teach half of their contract, and again, another teacher would have to be hired to fill those spots.
Additional mentoring stipends, if they're getting paid to be a mentor teacher, what would the stipends be for?
The stipends are through the grant. That's part of the grant, is that we have to provide stipends for those teachers. They have to do a tremendous amount of paperwork for the grant, and the training is extremely intense in 8 days and very in-depth. So that is part of the grant, that they want those teachers to receive a stipend.
The days that they're doing training outside of
It's
work?
a throughout the year stipend, but it's, yeah.
So
It's
then-
to be a part of the grant program.
So if someone is classified as a mentor teacher, they still remain in their step level in our normal salary schedule, or is there a different?
They stay on their current salary schedule.
Okay, makes sense. Great.
Any other questions?
For new teachers, is that identified as teachers who are new to the district or teachers who are new in their teaching career?
Good question. It's teachers who are new to teaching,
New
new
to
to
teaching.
the profession.
Okay.
And the goal is those 0 to 2 year teachers are the ones that we need to catch and keep them in teaching.
So does this be helpful to any of our teachers? Because we have some teachers who have been here for more than 2 years and they could use some mentoring. How is it possible that this will help those teachers?
The way that we've talked about it, because we have the same, we agree completely that we have a lot of teachers who, all of us could use mentoring. That what the training that we receive, the mentors that will be going through the training will come back and share that training with our academic coaches, so that then they will be able to support those teachers who are beyond that 2 year range.
Do we have a limit on the number of new teachers that will be able to be mentored?
Yes. It is very specific in the grant that a mentor can serve up to 15 teachers if they are a full-time mentor. That means they don't teach at all, or they can serve 7 if they are a half-time mentor. And when we talked with our master teachers, they really wanted to be able to stay in the classroom half-time and mentor half-time because they weren't ready to give up teaching. So we chose to have the 3 half-time instead of the full-time.
So we'll be able to mentor up to 21 teachers. And what happens if we go over that?
We can only mentor up to 21 according to the grant. Okay. Again, though, part of our plan is to share our training with our academic coaches so that we can support additional teachers.
How many current teachers do we have in our secondary schools that are potential candidates to be mentored?
Right now, I believe we have 35 or 36 at 6 through 12 that are 2 years or less. That doesn't equal 21.
Well-
You're right.
Are you judging me my math skills? You
Just
can hear
saying.
the gerbil in there? But it would really just be 1 year or less, right? Because next year they'll be in their second year? Or-
Correct. There are a few of them, actually, I think there are 5 or 6 that will fall into that third year. We do have a tremendous population of brand new to teaching teachers at the secondary level. So we will have to prioritize those brand new to teaching 0 years of experience first, and then fill in with our first year.
Based on effectively seniority then, in terms of who, or how do you select that? Or will there be some allocated for recruiting purposes, knowing that we're, due to attrition, we're always going to be looking for new teachers? I would think that this would be something that would be marketable, that we could get the best of the best first-year teachers or brand-new teachers if we could offer this program as part of their benefits.
I think that was a great idea, that we can be able to use this as a marketing tool. A lot of brand new teachers are trained from their college when they're interviewing, do you have a mentoring program? And we have had one, but now we're going to have an even better one.
Mr. Beckett, you're interstage left.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's interesting, my 2 trips to out-of-state job fairs, Pennsylvania and Minnesota, it was a thrill to be able to tell them about our mentorship grant and that there's a possibility to be able to get direct supervision, and also talking about the support they get from their academic coaches at the school sites as well. So yes, definitely, this was a selling point for the district.
Thank you.
Holding this grant accountable, how does that work? You mentioned earlier that we could reapply for this grant if it ran out or whatever. So if we were to follow and adhere to everything to this grant, would we be able, is that how that works?
Correct. I'll be the program director, so I'll be coordinating with the Arizona K-12 Center and making sure that we follow all of their requirements and paperwork and guidelines and all of those. That's why it's only 21, because
Right. So
we
that
want to be able
if it's
to
successful,
reapply.
would that show that, we're utilizing that grant responsibly and making sure that we could possibly
Absolutely.
have
This-
another?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that was fine.
Okay. This year, we are the only district who is getting a new grant. They are refunding, I believe, 3 or 4 other districts that they've worked with previously. So it's even better that we are the only new district. So
Great, yeah.
there is great opportunity to continue.
Said this, I just didn't seep in, but what is the selection process for the mentees?
It would start with our 0-year teachers, our brand new to teaching teachers first. We would take all of them, and then we would look from there to see from our first year teachers. I really only think we're going to get to our 0 and first year teachers next year. I don't think we'll get any of those second year teachers.
Be able to benefit from this program then?
6th through
Like-
12th grade.
Awesome, okay. Thank you.
That's great. It supports our district goal 3 and 4.
It's pretty awesome.
Thank you. Dr. Chestnut, budget discussion, item D. Almost.
The budget for a couple months, and we only have a couple more months to go to get this all figured out. So I want to keep the discussion going, get some feedback from the board tonight, and have a little discussion on these topics. And so this should look pretty familiar to you. This spreadsheet has been slightly revised since the one that was posted last Friday, because we got some new news from the state, and that was that charter funding is not going to be as well funded as we had hoped. And our total revenue for charter funds will only be $2,300,000 next year, is what we're currently projecting based on the latest information we have. So had to rework that top part of the spreadsheet a little bit. So just to refresh your memory what you're looking at there, the top section, it says charter funds, budget committee recommendations. The budget committee spent a lot of time really prioritizing what they thought they wanted to recommend to me and the cabinet. And then the cabinet and I sat down and kind of reworked their recommendations and based on the new funding that we're going to receive. So some of this we talked about at our last meeting. So the top line, the board approved the 1.25 salary experience step for all staff. So that was approved, and the cost on that will be $787,000 next year. Last board meeting, the governing board approved special ed staffing, the addition of 4 certified positions. That'll be a cost of $240,000. Those are the only 2 things on the list that the board has already authorized, and so obviously, as we continue, we have to make decisions on these other things as we start to finalize our budget document. So, the next item on the list, high school staffing. The Cabinet and I are recommending 2 additional high school teachers, and that's actually an agenda item tonight. We would like to talk about that maybe in detail at that time, or we can do it now if you want, doesn't matter, but we need an additional remedial math teacher and an additional remedial English teacher that we think could really help us continue to move forward and help our kids prepare for graduation requirements. That's salary and benefit cost, average cost for a teacher, $50,000 each. Next on the list, district-wide technology needs. As you know, that's an expensive part of our program, and we would like to invest an additional $200,000 this next year with charter funds. We think it would be prudent to do that. The department, typically has a pretty good budget because we have a lot of needs, but they're ever increasing. And for example, we're in the process of receiving our things that the principals ordered for their academic focus, and a lot of Chromebooks are coming in, and so we're going to continue to need to support our technology programs. So that would be our recommendation, $200,000 for district-wide technology. Next, funding for academic focus. We spent about $300,000 on that this spring with charter funds so that each school could launch their academic focus, and we would like to continue that. We also would continue to be very prudent with those funds. If we don't pass an override, if we don't have additional revenue source for our academic focus, then principals are going to have to really make that funding last a couple years, and not necessarily spend it all next year, but at least that's a starting point for discussion. Next item, reserve funds. The good news is that this year, with the additional charter revenue we received, we were able to place a large portion of it, about $1.5 million, into reserve. That's where we should end up. This would allow us to continue to add reserve funds, and we think that that would be a prudent thing to do because at the end of next year, charter funding goes away completely. The Ochin grant ends. We're going to need to smooth that over for the next couple of years so that we don't have a whole lot of layoffs all in one year. We know that some of that's going to happen anyway. We have 5 math teachers that we've hired this year and then again next year with Ochin grant funds. And that was a conscious choice we made. We wanted to work on math, and they've helped us. But we know, for example, that unless we get additional revenue source, maybe through the passage of an override, we will have to lay off 5 math teachers a year from now, just because of the grant ending. So the reserve funds will help us as we reach those kinds of decisions. The next item, kindergarten class size reduction. Currently, we are planning 18 full-time kindergarten teachers. We're figuring we'll have approximately 500 students, and I believe that works out to about 28 students per class. We certainly like it to be much lower. The question is, can we afford it? And that's really the thing we can talk about tonight. Next item, mental health support, social workers. There was interest by the budget committee to do that. That would be pretty much a new thing for us to have staff members like that, and so we are recommending that we not start that program at this time. $2.3 million then at the top for charter expenditures would be our recommendation from the cabinet and myself. The next section is the 1.4 inflation factor funds provided by the state of Arizona as required by law, and that amounts to $425,000. We're going to need to spend $150,000 for all-day kindergarten if we have the 18 teachers, and that's our plan. So that's the expense there. Next item, special education costs. Day school costs primarily have increased this year. We know that will continue next year. Next one, CAVID compliance. We've been working on that figure. Last time you looked at that, it was $100,000. As Mr. Roush has continued to crunch those numbers, we think it'll actually be closer to $50,000 instead of $100,000. And the last item, utilities, supplies, materials, inflation. So that is the recommendation, but it is a recommendation that is open for discussion.
There's not too many places to move things around.
What the balance of our reserve is right now without the funding from this year, like what we carried over from last year? So what our total balance is right now?
Well, we have several funds that make that up, so. Can you use the mic, Mr. Roush? Please, so those in the TV land can hear you.
Yes, we do know what that is. When we report in our next financial report, we can show that. There's several funds that make that up. There's M&O is our biggest fund, but we have 610, which is DAA, and we have approximately 100 different funds, but they make up a reserve. So I don't have the exact number right now, but I can give that to you later.
Yeah,
when.
that would be great.
I think that information is very useful and would be helpful for us as we discuss the potential budget for next year. And I understand the concerns with the Ochin grant is not, it ends and we don't have control over if it gets renewed. And with the unfortunate situation with the district charter school funding at the legislature. However, I know that in past board meetings, we've been considering a lot of capital projects, which are lovely, that we have money for in district additional assistance. But given the situation we're in now, which we were not in, we thought we were in a different situation 3 months and 4 months ago when we discussed those. We thought we would have charter school funding indefinitely. Now we don't. We might need to look at that and reassess what we can do with it, because as I look at the budget for the school district and the overall school district spending, the Auditor General released a report for all the school districts, they do, and for Maricopa specifically, we are spending more money outside of the classroom than inside of the classroom. And I think our strategic goals are almost all, I would say at least 75% in classroom goals, whether it's qualified teachers, giving students the right education, et cetera, et cetera. And so given the unfortunate situation we're in right now, I would suggest that we reassess some of those things, what we want to do with district additional assistance, what it can be used for. I know that we can move it into M&O. We already had that discussion. And then I agree we need to keep a reserve. We need to be prudent. But how much of a reserve do we need to keep? Because these kids are here right now. And our job is to teach them right now. And if we keep holding back money so that in case the voters don't pass an override or if we don't get charter school funding, then all we're doing is giving them the opportunity not to, because we're taking care of it. We have a backup plan. And sometimes people need to feel the pain before they will make action. And so and I'm not saying we shouldn't keep a reserve, I just think we need to look at it with a very distinct-ful eye and see what more we can do, and do we need some of these capital projects more than we need teachers in the classroom? Because every elementary school principal that has come before our board has said the same two things. They said we need lower class sizes and we need more planning time. And this budget that's proposed does not do either one of those things. And all of them have said it. And so, we need to look to some of these funds and see what we can do for our teachers in that respect, because I would like to see our in-classroom dollars be more than our out-of-classroom dollars. Secondly, again, unfortunately, before we didn't think we were in this position with the charter funds, but now we are. When I look at the Auditor General's report, the student support services category per student, MUSD falls $100 per student higher in spending for student support services. And I'm told by Mr. Roush that student support services is nursing and special ed. Anything else? Attendance clerks, clerical. But we're $100 per student higher, so that's $600,000 higher in that category than the state average. And I looked into it a little bit with Mr. Roush, and it seems that we have a very extensive nursing program, which I am all for nurses in schools. I love the school nurse in my child's school. She's great. But I looked into school nursing and staffing and what is recommended and what is normal. And the National Association of School Nurses, their ideal recommendation for school nurse to student ratio is 1 to 750, 1 nurse to 750 students. We have 1 nurse to 600 students. Now, maybe that's justified, but their ideal number is 1 to 750. And we are way below that, so we are way, I would say, overstaffed in terms of their ideal numbers. And now that we're in a situation where we are in a budget crunch, maybe we need to look at some of those things. Maybe, you know, maybe there's somewhere we can cut there so that we can get more teachers in the classroom, you know, at all of our schools. So those are just some of the things I think that, unfortunately, now we're going to need to consider, whereas, you know, 2 months ago was a different story. So.
Well, I think, though, our demographics may differ from some of those other districts. We do have a very high population of special needs students, and so our costs are going to be probably higher than the norm.
And I agree that our costs are going to be higher, but we are $600,000 higher. And then our school nurses, we have 20% more school nurses than is recommended.
There's one at each site. If your student was at a school and that nurse didn't happen to be there that day when that child got hurt, and you didn't get a phone call as a parent, you'd be pretty pissed.
And I agree, and I agree with you, and I agree with you completely. But that doesn't mean we can't look at that. If we are that much higher and we're that much above the ideal, there's got to be somewhere we can look at that, and even 20% savings would give us 20% of 60. I mean, it would be $120,000. That's 2 teachers.
Back to the first point too on construction. You're right, things have changed, and so with the project we've authorized at the high school, we are planning to charge as much of that as possible to capital project fund instead of any other flexible funds, so that it's well, that's the plan, which we had planned to do it differently when we first approved that project.
So when we come back to look at this again, can we get the balance of what we have, you know, now that we're making these changes, so we can be better informed? Lisa, I think this thing just died.
And Dr. Trustman, I'm sure you'll use the same slide. What would be helpful for me is on each line, if you could put off to the side which fund that money's coming out of. You know, like all-day kindergarten, we know is coming out of Move On When Reading. You know, the 1.4 inflation is coming from the state increase. Just so we know what fund that money's coming out of.
This entire slide is coming out of M&O, but I understand what you're saying. If there's any
When we look at the whole budget, this is just a portion.
Sure.
Okay. Because I'd like to see the whole budget at one time before we approve it, and where all those funds are coming from and where they're going. You know, we've got 301 funds, we've got all those other funds that are going to fund some of those things. Yeah. Thank you.
As far as the amount that we invest in non-classroom dollars.
I'd have to accumulate that because it's in several different places, but I can bring that back for you.
With, okay, do you know within $5 million?
Well, if I had our financial report right here, I could, I can send that to you pretty close. If you have your monthly financial report, you can kind of peruse back.
Because the Auditor General's report is based on old information. So what I would like to see is a comparison of what are we doing now, because we have made some changes, as compared to what the Auditor General's report shows, so that we can reflect on what have we changed and what can we still change.
Yeah, that would be great. I would like it current, but I know that for last year, it's 3,500 or 3,516 out of class and 3,166 in class, but I've discussed this with Dr. Chestnut, and for this year, it's going to be, well, I'm not going to say it's going to be worse, but we got laid off some teachers last year for this current school year, and those are in-classroom dollars that are now not in the classroom. So I don't anticipate we're going to see, and Dr. Chestnut and I discussed this, a much better number there. Same goes for the student support services. Right now, we're $100 over the state average per student. Dr. Chestnut and I both discussed how it's probably going to be even more when they give us our report for next year based on the hires we've made this year that have been in student support services. So, but that would be helpful, especially as we look at the budget. And, yeah, so.
In concept, then we'll save the numbers for next time around. But the conversation's been focused on where do we spend the additional revenues that we're getting, the now decreased additional revenues, with everything else stays the same. And I think given what the points that Mrs. Norris have brought up, I think are very valid. And I think what we need to be doing is also looking at where do we cut? Where can we find some of those monies in the non-classroom areas that we can cut, however painful, so that we can get some dollars in the classroom and so we can lower our class sizes and hire more teachers. So I'd encourage you guys to think along those lines when we talk about this next. Would be beneficial. A couple quick questions, though, specifically on the academic focus, the $300,000 there. What types of things are those one-off investments, or is that part of ongoing programming? How does that work as it relates to the fact that that academic focus may effectively go away, right? Because if we don't have the funds to provide that service.
Right. So we're going to have to keep talking about the orders that were placed this spring, about $300,000 worth. $211,000, I believe it was spent on technology. So there's a real desire to increase number of Chromebooks in the building is the primary thing that principals purchase, and the carts to go with them and that kind of thing. So yes, one-time purchases, essentially. And so, yeah, not a lot of recurring expense. There's a few. The leadership training that MES paid for this spring will be charged again next year, but they did that instead of technology. It was a conscious effort, and that training will help them launch. I think that, ideally, we can continue our academic focus into the future. We may not be able to fund it as well as we would like, and we may not be able to move as quickly on that academic focus as we would hope, but we hope we can keep it in place. That's the goal.
We'll limit the recurring expenses best we can in that regard. And one final question. The CAVIT dollars, at our last meeting we approved 2 new positions to satisfy the $100,000. Now that's $50,000. So how does that impact? Are we still hiring that second CAVIT position?
We spent a great deal of time today talking that through, and we will get you that information back on paper at our next meeting, because we have not gotten to the bottom of that yet. But yes, we're working on that. And we're not going to hire anybody till we have it all figured out, right?
When we do compare to other school districts, and they do compare to like-sized school districts, also we have to compare to those school districts with equal funding. So if we're trying to compare ourselves to a school district that has a 15% override, we're not comparable. They have 15% more funds. So they can spend 15% more just in the classroom. So we have to be thoughtful of comparing apples and apples when we do that. So it's always.
I agree with you on that, which is, and so I looked into it, and Kyrene does have an override, and they spend the less money than us total per student. They spend $65.92. We spend $66.82 per student. This is according to last year. And they spend almost $4,000 in the classroom, and we spend just over $3,000 in the classroom. So I agree with you when you say we have to do that, but at the same time, they have an override. We're spending more per student, but way less in the classroom. And so that, I think, it doesn't matter if you have an override or not.
Again, part of that is that they're not a high school district, so we have to think about how that compares too, because there are certain expenses that high schools have that an elementary school district doesn't have too. So high schools are more expensive.
And I think regardless of what other school districts are doing, as a matter of practice, when we go through the budget process every year, it should be where can we sharpen our pencil on the expense side so that we can always be moving those funds the best that we can from out of the classroom into the classroom. Regardless of what the stats and the comparisons and all that, that should be our desire and our emphasis. So,
Dr. Chestnut?
Feedback, thank you.
Okay. Let's go ahead and move on. That brings us to our consent agenda. Do we have any motions?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on our action items, Mr. Beckett, we're going to do our the board minutes first, so you can rest for just a few more minutes. We pulled out of consent, approved the April 9th regular governing board minutes, and I pulled those out because Leslie was not at that meeting, so not able to vote on that? Okay. All right, so going back to approval of the April 9th, 2014 regular governing board minutes, do we have any motions? We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And one abstention. Yeah. All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Beckett. HR schedule, you're up.
Thank you, President Anderson, members of the board, Dr. Chestnut. You have the schedule in front of you. Do you have any questions tonight?
I don't have any questions.
The new position. So this comes on the heels of us approving several new positions for special ed last time around. Is this a new need in the last couple of weeks, or?
It is, Member Bartle. We actually had a student come in who needed a one-on-one paraprofessional, and this was a hire to cover that particular need, yes.
So it was part of the IEP?
It was.
Okay.
I think, if you don't mind, also as part of this, but part of our budget discussion, it would be valuable for not just the board, but for the community to understand the difference in what it costs to educate a special needs student versus a traditional student. And so much of our budget is impacted by the fact that we are so heavy in that student population. And I think folks can lose sight of the impact that has on the schools.
So is that a presentation you want to see from special ed department, Mr. Bartle, or from the finance department, or anybody?
Yeah, I don't necessarily need a presentation from special ed, but just when we're looking at the numbers, I think it'd be beneficial if we could just a very executive summary to show the differential.
Okay, any other questions for the HR schedule? All right, any motions?
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Beckett.
Thank you.
7B, discussion and possible approval of minor revisions of the approved 14-15, 15-16, and 16-17 school year calendars. Would this be Mr. Beckett or Dr. Chestnut?
Members of the board, Dr. Chestnut, appreciate that. You have in front of you tonight the slight revisions that we made to all three of those school year calendars. And you could see in the cover sheet and the background information, the reason why we made those changes was that we made a decision this year. We wanted to revise some of our start and end times for our schools. That also impacted our early release schedule as well. So as we drafted that schedule, that it was one of the attachments there, we found out that obviously those school year calendars needed to be revised in order to reflect those changes. And so we're bringing those changes to you tonight for your approval.
some questions about this.
Okay.
All right, I understand starting the high school later, and believe me, I have a incoming freshman that's thrilled that he gets to sleep in 20 more minutes. But some of the questions that I have, when you look at the middle schools, they're now going to be, they're still going to be getting out at 4:10. And my concern is even with this year, the athletics, when the middle school has to leave, they're leaving at 2 o'clock. They're getting dismissed out of their class to get ready to get on a bus. That's 2 hours of instructional time, sometimes twice a week if they have 2 away games. So, because the other schools that we're playing get out earlier. And now with the high school, that's going to affect them as well, is it not? They're going to be getting out earlier to have to go travel when they have their academics?
I'm going to have to ask, we'll probably have to get either Mr. Nienaber or the AD to enter to talk that.
Instructional time. The other question I have, right now we have our after-school program, and it is held at Butterfield. And Butterfield is going to be now one of the later start. So what happens with the students that need to go there before they get out, or before school, when school's, so it's, how are we handling that? Because I can tell you as a parent, and I've got some issues, and that's going to be something I'm going to be asked to be brought up at a later date, that there's a security and a liability issue that the district has with these students. Parents have to go, they're signed in by the staff member, they're signed out by a parent. And there has been numerous times where I have gone to the school to pick up my kid, and because of a school event or something else going on, the doors are wide open and anybody else can be walking in and out of there while Copa kids are in session. So now with the change of this schedule, how are they going to handle Copa kids? Or are they going to go back to before and after school at all the school sites?
Tonight, but that's something we can certainly look into. I can tell you that our principals are aware of this schedule. We asked for their input. I received no significant concerns back from anyone about any of the programming before or after school. But again, we can ask that question specifically.
I don't know necessarily if the site administrators are going to know about it because it's all now held at one school. So it's the parents. Then this information is just coming out to them now.
We are releasing it early, actually much earlier than what we've done in prior years. So we're hoping to get this communicated clearly, effectively now, so that as people begin planning for the next school year.
And now the middle schools are going to have early release every Wednesday.
That is correct.
And the plan for that was strictly transportation, or did it have something to do with their professional development as well?
Once again, Doctor, you want to fill that
I
one?
know the answer to that one, and maybe Mrs. Roden does too. Currently, I believe the schedule for middle school this year is they have 2-hour early release twice a month. Isn't that correct?
It's the same as the high school. They follow
Same as the high school, and so we wanted to keep the same number of hours, so it's roughly 1 hour, 4 hours at a time, 1 hour at a time for 4 weeks, right? And there's a 5-week month in there, but
Okay.
we want to keep roughly the same amount of time for middle school next year.
Okay.
And unfortunately, transportation is a factor, and it is something that we need to figure into this process. And it would be nice to just simply use this solely on instructional needs, but we have limited resources in transportation, and one of the reasons why we're unable to do a 2-hour release every other week is because we don't have enough buses and people to accommodate that schedule.
How many more buses would we need?
I do not have that information. I'd have to check.
So the two reasons why we're going through this process, one is the revised start and ending schedule for all school sites. That's code for transportation issues? Or?
I'm not sure it's code, but
But is that, I didn't mean to be flippant, but is that specific to the busing and transportation of why we need to?
Because we changed the high school start time. It used to be earlier, so there wasn't an issue. That's why the school times have been the same. Up until this past year, only 2 elementary schools were changed because of the all-day kinder the half kinder, that's why it was changed for, I believe it was Pima, Butte, and Santa Rosa were two late start schools. They started a half hour later than what they had in the past.
The other reason is we want to build in early release for the high school on a more regular basis. This year, I know. So that's one thing. The high school would rather start later than have less professional development time.
That also was a concern. When we had the 2-hour every other week, it affected their instructional minutes enough that we weren't getting enough time for the kids in the classroom, specifically our CAVIT kids who are leaving a little early. It's a complicated process, but we weren't meeting the instructional needs of our kids if we had 2 early releases for the high school for their professional development. So we had to go down to 1.
And we still meet that with the middle school?
Yes, we do.
So for future question, and not tonight, it just popped in. I'm sorry I didn't ask you beforehand. We do the early release so that teachers have time to plan and attend trainings, correct? Okay, so can we look at why I've heard twice now from 2 schools that they don't have enough plan time? That doesn't make sense to me. Then why do we have early release? So can we just look into if that plan time's really being used effectively? Otherwise, I'm all for no early release, kids stay in school, and let's teach them. But can we just look into if that time's being used effectively? I mean, elementary gets out every week early, and yet we heard tonight from both schools, we don't have enough plan time, our groups can't, our grade levels can't ever meet together. So I'm not understanding why we're doing it then, and if we need to do it.
Janelle Hildick was making tonight was that they don't have enough specials to release an entire grade span of teachers so that they could have common planning time that way. That was what I understood. True, yes, but I think that's what she was referencing was during the day with specials. Ms. Roden, was that correct?
I don't think it's on.
Two professional developments each month that we don't touch. We touch one at the district. We take one professional development a month, which aligns to our strategic plan and our elite goals and all that. Then the principals have the autonomy to take one of those days, and the other 2 are theirs for professional collaboration with their grade level. So 1 for district, 1 for principal, 2 for teachers is how it is laid out in the calendar. The elementary, correct.
Now, how does that plan out for the secondary?
We have one district initiative. We have to have one of those days, and then they have the other one for collaboration. However, they're able to collaborate within their 1-hour preps, and they do have them broke out by content areas or cohorts, depending on which school site. So they are able to collaborate within their day at the secondary schools. Maybe not as tight, having all 12 English teachers at once, but you would have pockets where you possibly could have 6 on a prep at once and another 6 on a prep at once.
Don't remember the secondary principals or teachers complaining about collaboration.
They're not.
It was mainly the 6 elementaries, yeah.
Correct.
But they're out early at 2
Yes.
o'clock every day,
Yeah.
so, I
On
mean, every week.
Yes.
So that's plenty of time for grade 6 to plan together. I mean.
They have 2 releases at 2 hours
Okay.
per month. So they have 4 hours per month that is uninterrupted time.
And it's been helpful.
Okay, so back to the calendars. Any other questions on the calendars?
Just for clarification, yes, this is somewhat counterintuitive for me, so just the impact on instructional time, it goes up, right? Early release, but our instructional minutes are going up. Okay. At the high school, which is that second bullet, right? Okay. Thank you.
I know, Mr. Beckett, you mentioned that you had put this out early enough for the parents or maybe the public to respond or give back feedback and that kind of thing. Is there a timeline that we have to have these approved like tonight? It seemed like there's a lot of questions that are unanswered, and maybe we could table this until the next agenda to get those questions answered? Or do we need to move forward with the approval of these calendars?
It's certainly the board's prerogative to do what they want on this, but again, I think the earlier we make this decision, get it communicated, get it finalized, I think the better it's going to be for us and for parents.
Revisions to the approved 2014-15, 15-16, and 16-17 school year calendars.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beckett. All right, item 7C, discussion and possible approval of 2 additional high school teaching positions. Dr. Chestnut.
Yes, and I'll be glad to involve Mrs. Roden in this discussion as well. I outlined this earlier briefly. It is our recommendation that we move forward for an additional remedial English teacher and an additional remedial math teacher to help prepare our students for graduation. And one reason we would like board approval on this tonight is so we can attract the best candidates and recruit the best candidates. And the earlier we're out there, the better our chances of doing that. And Ms. Roden, anything you want to add to that?
The additional remediation in the Algebra 1 area is what we're lacking in. We're able to staff for geometry and Ames prep, but we haven't been able to take it down to the Algebra 1. And we feel that if we could close that gap before they take the Ames test, we have a better chance at not needing the remediation past 10th grade. So the goal is to give that foundation level to the Algebra 1, which is our freshmen.
Which they need.
They do.
Yeah. Okay, any other question? Go ahead.
It says in the background that the intention was to hire 3 remedial math teachers with the OCCHIN funds, but only 2 were hired. So if the OCCHIN funds, we set aside money to hire 3 teachers, but we only hired 2, wouldn't we be able to still hire 1 with the OCCHIN funds?
Yeah, I may have looked at how I wrote that up. We had only intended to use OCCHIN funds for 2 positions at the high school, which we were able to accomplish. We had planned to fund that out of M&O. This year, we just couldn't find a qualified person.
It's a likely scenario whereby I think the number was 5 math teachers go away due to our lack of funding in the coming year. So does this make 6, or is this a short-term venture? How does this relate into that conversation?
You know, it just goes back to the idea it's an immediate need that we need to take care of this next year. One reality is that we lose math teachers also, and so I wish I had a better answer than that. So technically, yes, it makes it 6, but it's still a need that we have that our students, that we have to work with our students on.
My concern, and I don't know the answer, unfortunately, and this is one of the challenges that we face and all schools in Arizona face, is just the lack of predictability in our funding. This is a great example of that, I think. And if we're talking about let's do this now so we can get the best candidate for these positions, and looking specifically at the math position, I can't imagine we're going to get anything except somebody who's can't otherwise get a job. If you are a great candidate, why would you come here when a year, maybe 2, that position goes away?
Well, I think it's a great question. And that's the reason why we have an override recommendation committee in place. I mean, if we'd have passed the override in fall of 2012, there were 13 additional teachers on that proposal, and this discussion would be much different tonight if that had passed. I mean, that's just
The hand that we've been dealt, right?
And I agree. I think it's an invalid point. I think that we are trying to work on a solution, and that's why I'm hoping to bring you an override recommendation in the near future that will help address that issue. I guess this was my point, really.
Okay, any other discussion or questions for Dr. Chestnut? Go ahead.
point, I appreciate that this recommendation will be in classroom dollars, and I think that's a nice addition and going in the right direction. My only hesitation is that, and it was the same with what we approved 2 weeks ago, in order for us to really assess any of these new additions for next year, I feel like we need to understand the full budget recommendation, because when we approved the special education positions in the last week or 2 weeks ago, and this, we don't know what we're giving up. We don't know what we're giving up when we approve this, what other things are being taken off the table. And the only way we can understand that is if we have the full budget proposal. So I'm glad we had the discussion today. I think it was very beneficial, but I would just encourage you to get us that as soon as possible so that we understand the full picture, and so that any other positions besides these in the special ed that we want to hire, we can get out there, like you said, in enough time to hire good teachers. So.
I will say it is nice in the last 5 years that we're actually talking about hiring teachers and not riffing 20. So it's a nice conversation and discussion to have. So I appreciate all the comments. So with that, any other questions or discussion?
I'm sure you will exercise this without my comment, but just emphasis that if you can't get a great candidate for this position or any position, don't hire it, right? I mean, let's figure out another way. But we always have to look on what return on our investment we're getting, and if we're going to get somebody who's not going to provide the service that we need, then we may not. It may be better off doing something else with that money. So.
No mediocre. All right. Any other discussion or questions or motions? We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item 8. Do we have a motion to adjourn? We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you for being here, and we will see you in 2 weeks.